Hey guys, my name is Matthew, and today we're talking about the difference between the US and the UK when it comes to book covers. Here we go. The old adage that you can't judge a book by its cover is true in a lot of situations, but it turns out it's not true for books. That is to say that wherever books go around the world, when they're republished in a new country, they almost always change their book covers because a book cover has everything to do with how well a book is going to sell. A really well-written book by an amazing author who does just an excellent job may not sell any copies hardly at all if it doesn't have a really excellent book cover to go with it. And the opposite is true as well. Really naff books have sold because they had great book covers and people get interested in them, they pick them up, and even though if they don't enjoy the book, they still bought it. Today we're going to be looking at some of the differences between book covers in the US and the UK and talking about why they're different. To start with and to illustrate the point, I want to show you this cover of Memories of Future Siri, which shows why a book cover in the US versus the UK needs to be different. One book cover would never do well in the United States. There'd be a huge outrage about it, and regardless of the content of the book, it just wouldn't do well. Or maybe it would do really well because of all the controversy, I'm not sure. But it's clear that one of these book covers is designed for the US and one is designed for the UK. And if you know anything about the differences in our cultures, then you would immediately know which one is which. I'll give you a hint. The US despises nudity. Also, we love it. But mostly, we wouldn't be okay with it on our book covers. Moving forward in the video, I'm just going to be kind of running a reel of different book covers, side by sides of US versus UK. You can tell me what you think. If you like the US ones in general better or UK ones in general better. And as I'm talking about some of the differences, you'll start to recognize which one is which. I do just want to say before we get started, these are general trends that I've noticed based on looking at literally thousands of book covers between the US and the UK, but they're not like actual hard and fast rules, i.e. some of your favorite covers may break these rules, and that's okay. These are trends that I've noticed a lot when looking at these covers, that US ones tend to look a certain way and UK ones tend to look a certain way. To start with, just to be really stereotypical, US book covers tend to be flashy. They tend to use up as much space as possible, and they use big, bold colors and bold type print, and they tend to be really in your face. And that's in comparison to British ones, which tend to be darker, they tend to be a little bit more muted and a little bit less likely to jump out at you. There's a simplicity to British book covers. I think part of the reason for this is because of the American consumerism. There's this idea that we're a little more comfortable with people being in our faces, and in order to catch your eye and buy something, we kind of want it to be flashy and big and bold. And if a book cover isn't those things, it makes us less likely to pick up a book and buy it. The British attitude in general is that they don't necessarily want things to be big and bold. There's something that feels wrong about that, like you're being too forward. And so a muted book actually fits really well with British personalities. Another general trend that I've noticed is that British books tend to make really good use of negative space, whereas US books tend to try to fill the entire space. There's this thought, I think, with books that are sold in the UK that they're relying on selling you not so much an idea, but more so the mood of the book. And you can do that really well with negative space. In the United States, I think there's maybe more of a sense that there's a certain amount of real estate on the book cover and we need to use it as much as possible. There's little blurbs and little sold by this and best-selling New York Times bestseller and like words all over the place and pictures and colors, and it has to fill up the entire book cover. Whereas in a UK book, they're okay with most of the book cover being black or blue or whatever color, and it being a matte black finish with some small, penciled in artistry in the corner or whatever. That's totally fine, whereas that doesn't tend to be as fine in the US. Another major difference that I've seen is that in the US, book covers tend to have characters on them. They're much more likely to have a character with their face showing forward so that way you can see who the main character of the book is. In the UK, if there is a character in the book, they tend to be turned away or maybe turned to the side, so you only have like a side profile, and that's a really interesting thing that I've noticed. In the UK, I've actually noticed sometimes when there's like multiple protagonists, you'll see three characters and they may be turned away or they may be facing or whatever. In the US, even if that same book has three protagonists, a lot of times they'll show one single character on the front cover. And I think this has to do with the individualistic nature of US society. There's a sense that in the US we want to identify with the main character, and we want to kind of feel their plight and understand who they are as an individual. In the UK, I think that there is a higher priority, maybe, some of these are guesses, but I think there's a higher priority on being able to imagine the character for yourself, right? If you're given a character's face at the very beginning and you look at the cover and you have an idea of what they look like already, it can be harder to visualize your own character for yourself. And in the US, we're okay with being told, hey, this is how it is, this is how it's going to be seen, this is how you should see this character. Another major difference between US and UK book covers is that in the United States, we tend to have very realistic covers. If it's a sci-fi novel, then we have a very realistic spaceship-looking contraption. Whereas in the UK, a lot of times, I would say the art, it's more abstract, it's more symbols, it's more artistic, and those small differences make a big difference. Again, I think there's a sense that in the United States, we like to know what it's going to be like. We want to know what it looks like, and we're okay with being told or shown that. Whereas in the UK, maybe there's a sense that you'd rather imagine those things for yourself. If you want to see it, you go to see a movie. But if you want to read about it and imagine it yourself, you read a book. As part of my research for this video, not only did I look at a lot of websites and read a lot of opinions about why US versus UK books are different, but I also got the opportunity to watch a lot of YouTube videos of people pointing out their favorite US and UK book covers and saying, hey, in this case I like the UK one better, in this case I like US one better, or whatever. And I thought those videos were really interesting because in general the consensus seems to be that UK book covers are better than US ones. And it had me thinking, I wonder, why is it that if the UK ones in general, I'd say 80% of the time, even among American YouTubers, they said that the UK book covers were better. I wondered why that was. Why don't US book covers do things more like UK then if the UK ones are better? And I came across kind of this concept which I think makes a lot of sense. In the United States, we have a very diverse and broad set of people that we're trying to market to. If you think about someone who's from Southern California, from LA or whatever, and then you compare that person to someone in Alabama or someone in New York or someone in wherever, Midwest, and you say, hey, we need to publish a book that appeals to all of those people equally, you end up coming up with something that appeals to the least common denominator, which may not actually be a good book cover. It may be fine, it might be an okay book cover, but it may not be a great book cover, because instead of trying to market to a specific audience, they're trying to market to a very, very broad audience. In the UK, while you obviously also have a very diverse group of people, there's a sense that they're a little bit more unified and therefore a little bit easier to create something that's great and appeals to all of those people. I don't know if that's entirely true or not. Let me know what you think about that theory. But I think it is interesting that in general, people tend to like UK book covers better, and yet the US continues to produce what they're producing. One other thing I'll say, which is in some ways is contrary to some of the things I've already been saying, is that there is a sense that as time has gone on, book covers have become more and more similar between the US and the UK and also other countries around the world. Fortunately or unfortunately, it depends on how you feel about all these things, but the trend seems to be that people around the world are copying Americanized, that's in quotation marks, an Americanized style for book covers. Even though they find that those covers don't sell as successfully in the countries that they're in, there's a sense that the globalization is kind of causing this idea. And I think, for me personally, I feel like that's a little bit unfortunate. I think there's something really nice about the fact that, unlike movies or music, which generally use the same types of marketing material around the world, books have distinct and very different book covers. And so I would personally like to see this trend continue. I'd like to see that people are using different book covers, and maybe very different book covers, to appeal to their different audiences, instead of seeing this kind of cultural amalgamation of all book covers where, you know, a book is released and it just has the same cover or a similar cover in every country that it goes to. Tell me what you think about that as well in the comments. Which do you prefer? Do you like US book covers? Do you like UK book covers? Do you wish that they all look the same so it'd be easier to find a book that you wanted? Or do you like that there are different covers that you could potentially pick from? Last thing I want to mention in this video, if you have enjoyed me talking about books a little bit, we have recently launched a new channel. I'll throw it in the description and put a card here as well. it is all about books. I've been doing some book reviews and talking about books a little bit. I'll throw an end card on this video as well, so if you want to wait till the very end, you can, and click on that. But if you have enjoyed me talking about books and you want to hear me talking more about books, that would be the place to get your fix. So this has been my breakdown of US versus UK book covers. If you enjoyed this content, do feel free to like and subscribe. We are still posting videos about the US and the UK from our home here in the United States. Thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, see you next time.
On the bed?
Yeah.
Yeah, serious. No, I can't.